Yep. Hey guys, welcome to the Harmony Project. This is our first inaugural episode. We're going to spend the next 12 weeks going over common issues that couples face in marriage. And we're going to be using our story to share how we overcame those issues and how God did a great work in our life. I'm David,
I'm Karen.
and we're really excited that you're joining us on this journey as we not only navigate our marriage and our relationship, but we navigate the Word of God as well. And so, while we are Christians, um, I know that some non-Christians might tune into this, and I don't want you to bounce out right away. I want you to stick around, and a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about is just really good, actionable advice that's really good for any relationship. Maybe not even marriages, just friendships and professional relationships, and we're going to be talking about parenting and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, having said that, we're going to be talking about communication today and how we used to really not be that good at it,
Mm-hmm.
but how these days we're not too bad.
Yeah. What are the key points
Key
that we're going to be
points.
going over?
Things we're going to be talking about today. Pitfalls. Pitfalls. Anyway, you'd have to go to an NA meeting to understand that reference. We're going to be talking about pitfalls. We're going to be speaking with love and grace, resolving conflict, and then building healthy communication habits. So each week we're going to spend about 30 minutes, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, touching on key subjects like this week, being communication. We'll have a scripture. Today's scripture is in Colossians chapter 4, verse 6, and it is, let your conversation be gracious and attractive so that you will have the right response for everyone.
Hmm.
So, having said that, let's go ahead and dive in. The first thing is, when is silence good and when is it bad?
Can we go to the very beginning of our stories?
Yeah. Like our relationship?
Well, no, like our struggles with communication in the past.
Like from our childhood?
Our only like our personal stories
Yeah.
with communication struggles
You,
that have bled into our relationship.
how about you take us on that journey with you, and then
Okay.
I'll pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know for me, like my personal story for communication struggles in our relationship was I was always afraid to kind of come to you with things, those
Mm-hmm.
hard conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, due to like the childhood trauma of, being put down anytime I would open my mouth or, I was always wrong.
Right.
Um, and, also relationship traumas
Yeah.
as well. And so it was hard for me in the beginning to even talk to you about hard
Yeah. We both
things.
brought baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from our childhoods and from our previous intimate relationships. Yeah, for me, I was raised in a household where you were meant to be seen and not heard, for sure, and opinions weren't allowed, and it was. I was always told I had a lot of potential, but then I was also told that I wasn't very smart. So my thing is as I grew up, I always had to be right. I always had to be loud, and get people's attention, and sometimes I did that negatively. Uh, I was passive aggressive, and I always had to be the smartest guy in the room, and that really bled early on. That really bled into our relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, and then yeah, we bring the baggage of our toxic relationships before we got together with each other into that as well early on.
Yeah.
That we both struggled with. I usually had psychotic girlfriends. I don't know why, but they were absolutely nuts. Yeah, you had abusive men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, but that's one of the cool things about our story is we're very different.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, we have both kind of found out like why communication is vital
Yeah.
in our relationship, really with any relationship. And I think like for me it helps with that unity in our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
understanding each other. And then it also helps, build the trust and being open and honest with each other. Um and then as well as supporting each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have an interesting dynamic because while we're both employed professionally in the drug addiction counseling field, Karen is the senior of the two of us. She's been doing it for much longer than me, but I have an educational background in psychology. That's my degree intent, and so we both bring these very unique aspects of like behavioral health into our relationship, as well as sometimes like, you're not my counselor, stop it. but yeah, definitely, communication today is a million times better. And let me preface this: the next 12 weeks is, we don't have, in my opinion, and I hope that she agrees with me, but we don't have a bad marriage. We have a beautiful marriage.
Mm-hmm.
We fall deeper in love with each other every day, but we have been through we have slogged through some shit. Mostly my fault. And I think that actually, I think that's the case in a lot of marriages. There's a lot of women who marry good dudes who have issues that they haven't handled, and it bleeds into their marriages. So you're going to get to explore that with me and with Karen over the next 12 weeks. At the end of the podcast, I'll kind of go over what I'm going to go through. But for now, let's go ahead and jump into some of our pitfalls.
Okay.
So silence.
Oh.
We have good silence.
And then productive.
And bad silence.
Oh,
so
productive is the good silence.
Unproductive.
Yes.
Unproductive.
Yes.
We have productive silence and we have unproductive silence. So the silent treatment is something we both did quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, I think it, goes back to that, the childhood traumas and relationship traumas is it was easier just to be quiet and not say anything. And, when I was upset with you or mad with you, or mad at you, I would just not talk to you in the beginning.
That was the best way to deal with it.
Right.
For both of us.
Instead of knowing that it was okay to say, I need a minute.
Yeah. Can we come back to this?
Right.
So when we talk about the silent treatment, when we talk about productive silence and unproductive silence, the silent treatment is malicious.
Mm-hmm.
It's withholding communication from whomever you're communicating with, not just your spouse or your partner, but professionally, friendships, with your children, withholding communication with malicious intent. So I'm not going to talk to you because I want to hurt you. And I know that sounds really bad and it sounds really mean. It sounds like something a psycho would do, but it's pretty common.
Well, it's kind of like that defense mechanism, right? Yeah. Because, that's how we're going to defend ourselves when we're upset and you're hurting me.
Yeah.
I think it's, I'm just going to hurt you this way by not talking to you.
It's very passive aggressive.
Right.
And we are both inherently, maybe not today, but inherently, we are both very passive aggressive individuals. So, it's been an interesting learning curve with each other because we share a lot of the same defects. They say opposites attract. We're really not. Like, you're an introvert.
Oh yeah.
And I'm an extrovert. Or maybe I'm an introvert with extrovert tendencies because I do like my time at home. But like socially, we're very opposite. But like at home, in our element, we got a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
But she likes to make the bed. I don't like to make the bed. There are some differences. But anyway, so what does productive silence look like then? So silent treatment is malicious, withholding communication, in an attempt to hurt your partner, your spouse, or the other person. How do we engage in productive silence?
Well, when we're upset or, we need a minute, we tell each other, I need a minute. Let me cool down and then I'll come back and we'll talk about this. Sometimes it's just, I need a minute.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this right now. Give me a minute.
It's never prefaced with cuss words.
Oh no.
It's like, even if I am pissed off in the moment, and she knows I'm upset, it comes across in my tone and in my body language, but I don't ever use angry words. Like, it's simply, I need a minute. Or maybe even if I'm not, like, we just had to unfortunately have one of our dogs euthanized, and I had to go do that. And so when I got out of the car, she like immediately met me outside to like console me, and I was like, no, I need a minute. Like, don't touch me, don't hug me, don't talk to me. I need some time because now I'm home and now I can really kind of process what I'm going through. So it's not just like when we're angry with each other, but there's other times we just need a minute.
Yeah.
So we're pretty good at that. What would you say? So, when people talk about productive silence and let's take a break and revisit this in a couple hours, are we a couple hours kind of couple?
Absolutely not. More like 5 or 10 minutes.
5 or 10 minutes. Yeah.
15 minutes max.
Yeah.
But
we take a small break.
Yeah.
But then we come back relatively quick.
Yeah.
We chew on it.
Yeah. And I know like you normally go outside, I
Mm-hmm.
normally clean.
Yep. We do something
And
productive in the productive silence.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
doubly productive. Yeah.
And and it's made it easier over the years to be able to go to you, when I know that like I'm the one in the wrong or upset or whatever, and I'm the one that needed the minute, or sometimes even when you needed a minute because I made you mad.
Yeah.
I think it's made it easier for me to come to you and just be open with you and be able to admit when I am in the wrong.
Yeah, and then when we talk about the silence, I mean that really moves into making assumptions.
Yeah.
We make a lot of assumptions, and like if we're being malicious, right? If we're, I'm going to give you the silent treatment. There's a lot of assuming in that, and so assume, make the ass out of you and me, and that's what it really does, especially in a marriage. When we assume things,
Hmm.
we definitely do the ass you me thing. So I know that we've discussed this before at this point multiple times, but I am not the typical man that Karen was initially attracted to
Mm-mm.
when we first got together. In fact, the first time I asked her out, she turned me down. I said, "Hey, we were in her office at work, and I said, "Hey, is there any chance that maybe sometime you'd want to go out with coffee or something with me, just to hang out?" And it was immediate. It was no,
You have to remember
yeah,
that there was a lot of things going on at
yeah,
that
yeah.
moment.
She had a really weird boyfriend that she couldn't shake. He was like a dirty little chihuahua, and she put him on the bus,
One way ticket.
one way ticket to Salem, and he came back like, "I'm back for
The cat
you."
came back the
Yeah,
next day.
yeah. The cat came back, and
Well, and then the other guy
and
that,
then yeah,
yeah, that
she had
asked
the
me.
creep from church.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she had this real interesting guy from church wanting to take her out to dinner, and then here comes old David Dunn. I got her to laugh a couple times, and I thought I had my foot in the door, and she shut me down. But she'd never been around a guy like that, who genuinely was interested in just cultivating a friendship with her. Like I had no ulterior motives when we first started. I lied because I lied. I did have some ulterior motives because 2 weeks into volunteering at the thrift store, my best friend at the time, Robert, God bless him, he's gone to be with the Lord several years ago, but we were both sitting. Remember the chairs by the window? How they
Mm-hmm.
used to be in an L shape
Mm-hmm.
there. So we were both sitting there, and she goes walking by one day, and he goes, "I'd hit that,"
Stupid.
and I said, "Yeah, I'd hit that too." And so we actually like the first person to get her to go on a date. We like made a bet, and he never made a move on her. He never made a move on her. And he's a good dude. I really miss that dude. I haven't thought about him in a long time.
Hmm.
He was my best friend. And let's take a moment. If you're thinking about suicide, please reach out. There are
Hmm.
people that love you. Okay. But he never made a move on her, and I made the move, and here we are, 16 years later. And but anyway, and I had never been with a woman like Karen. So independent, strong, very strong. I'd always dated women who were I wouldn't say weaker than me, but intellectually weaker than me. And they were just a little bit easier to more easier to manipulate. It was definitely, I wanted to be the power structure in the relationship, and with Karen, it was like it was not happening. But maybe that was, God knew what He was doing. So let's talk about the beginning of our relationship a little bit when we were still, we had gone on a date.
Wait, let's go back to the friendship part. Our conversation in the
Yeah,
room.
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
we
so
hadn't
we
even gone on a date yet.
no, we had gone on the date. Yeah,
Okay,
because
all right.
we had gone on the date to Starbucks, and I had come over and I cleaned your house.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes. So we were sitting.
yeah,
Yeah, we were sitting in the room having that conversation for what, a couple hours,
2 hours. Yeah, it was about 2 hours.
talking about things that we wanted in a relationship.
Yeah,
Uh, what did we call them the other day? They weren't expectations, but
prerequisites.
there we go.
Yeah,
There we
prerequisites.
go.
So I knew, like, when I got out of prison. So I had just gotten out of prison when Karen and I met, and she had about a year clean. She was just on her heels out of treatment, and uh, I was in a DOC transition program, and I got to know her, and we became friends. And I had made that little side joke with Robert, and then I genuinely started to pursue her. And so when I got out of prison, I wanted a wife. I knew that I needed to get married and settle down, or I was going to get right back into my addiction. I was going to get right back into just. I thought that's what I needed, right? And I believe that it really is, but I hadn't sought God on that. It was just like, I know the solution to my problems. I'm gonna get married up. So we had gone on the date. I had come in and I cleaned her apartment one day. She introduced me to her kids, and it was like, it's time to have this conversation. Do you want to go steady? I remember using that exact term. People still say that. Like, do you want to go steady? Like, are we actually going to do this? And she was like, yeah. And I said, okay, we need to have a conversation. So I'm looking for a wife. If you're not looking for a husband, then we're done. I'm going to move on. No heartbreak needed. We're going to go do our own thing. And she said, no, I'd like a husband someday. And that proceeded to be a 2-hour conversation on what we expected from each other. And we use the term expectations lightly because
they're
premeditated resentments.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say the prerequisites.
Prerequisites. They are prerequisites for
Not
resentments.
Not expectations.
Yeah, you lay no one's ever going to fulfill your expectations 100%.
Yeah.
So if you really, it can lead to some serious resentments if that's the case. But that's why we use that term lightly. But it was really good.
And that was like the beginning of our communication.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. We started off with good communication. And even though I have my own traumas and my own crap that I was dealing with, I actually thought she was the solution to a lot of my problems. And for a short time, she was. For a short time, this woman did exactly what I thought she was going to do. But because there was some unaddressed stuff in my past that I just refused to acknowledge, those toxic things crept back into me and ultimately crept into our marriage. But we'll address that later. But getting back to making assumptions, because that's where we started. Yeah, assumptions are bad. So,
well, they can also lead to anger.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about assumptions for a minute? You had some good stuff to say earlier.
Well, I mean, I know that like I touched on how like when you're upset for whatever reason, it could just be, like the thing with the dog. If I wouldn't have known like what was going on,
right,
and I would have, I probably would have felt like, oh my gosh, like he's upset with me, and that's me assuming that, it's all about me.
That you're the center of my world.
Right.
She really is.
But that can lead to me, again, assuming that you're upset with me, and then there's some resentments coming in, and and making my self-esteem go in the tank, and then here I am all upset with you over what? Over nothing. Yeah.
So you get upset. So you tend to assume in situations where I might be upset with you.
Right.
More often than not.
Yeah.
Are those your assumptions?
Yeah.
Okay, my assumptions are, I assume that I know what she wants and or needs. Not just in fixing, because I'm a fixer. So I will assume that I know how to fix you. Like, I know how to fix. Oh, you're upset? I know how to make you happy or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, she says, just leave me alone. Like, I don't need your help. I don't need you to fix this. I just need you to get out of the kitchen. Yeah, that's strong, independent woman. I need you to get out of the kitchen and get out of my way. It's yesterday she cut her finger while she was cooking, and I hollered from the bedroom, "Did you cut yourself?" And she just simply said, "Yeah," something like that, as she went to the bathroom to get her bed. When previously I would have been in the kitchen with like a first aid kit. I'm like, let me fix you up, and she's just trying to cut onions. So yeah, I do a lot of assuming in regards to that, but then I also assume that she's going to be okay with certain things. I'll invite people over for dinner. I'll say, hey man, let's do dinner next week. She'll be sitting right next to me, and I will not look at her and say, hey, should we invite them over for dinner? I'll just be like, hey, come over for dinner next week. She's good with it. Don't worry about it. And then we get home and she's like, I really wish that you would have said something to me about that. And then I'll have to call that person and be like, man, sorry.
It's because I'm the one that cooks.
Yeah, I spoke out of turn. My bad. I didn't talk to my wife first. So, but then I also make assumptions on, a lot of other things. I do kind of struggle with assumptions sometimes, but they're not all bad assumptions. Sometimes they are good, but they turn into, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So
yeah.
But anyway, uh,
Well, and then like I know that I kind of touched on it just a few minutes ago about the speaking in out of anger
yeah,
rather or love.
yeah. Speaking out of anger instead of love.
Right.
Right. So speaking out of love and grace, with love and grace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Because I know in the beginning, anger came out a lot.
yeah, anger was the biggest defense mechanism we had, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's very much love, especially if you take into account Ricky Scruggs' definition of love.
Squeaky
Squeaky
Rex.
Rugs. So a good friend of ours, and I don't know if this is his, and he can comment if it is his, or if he got it from someone else. But one time he gave us a definition of love, and it is the freedom. It is the freedom to allow someone to do good or evil in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so in communication, what that looks like is I'm going to give you the freedom to say what you need to say, and I'm not going to get all turned up about it, bent out of shape. I'm not going to overthink it. Sometimes Karen has had to say some hurtful things to me to correct me, and it was out of love because instead of leaving me, she would rather have these hard conversations. And so I could get all worked up about it and I could be like, well, screw you. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know my struggles, you know? And I could get, but that's not how it works. Love and grace. So she speaks to me in love and I accept it with grace. And I speak to her in love and she accepts it with grace. And sometimes we're not right. And when we're not right, we can have a conversation about that.
Mm-hmm.
She's always right. Husbands, your wife is always right. 9 times out of 10, they probably are. But yeah, love and grace, big one. The power of words, and then using I statements in that instead of you statements.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it comes across better when, in that moment of, being upset, saying, you know, I felt this way when maybe not you did this, or when this happened, that's how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes across better than saying, you did this.
You're such
And
an ass.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
we've
can't
had
believe
those.
you did this
Yeah,
to
we've had those
me.
conversations. Even before we've had two major speed bumps in our relationship, and both my fault, 100%. But even before the first one, she would lots of you statements if
Hmm.
I did something wrong. Lots of you statements. I've never been a big you, but there have been moments in our relationship where I have used some you statements. Usually when I feel attacked, I'm gonna use you statements
Yeah.
when I feel attacked. So 9 times out of 10, we start with I now. Actually, I think almost 10 out of 10 we start with I these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you that struggle with that, it is tough initially, but the more you practice and exercise, the easier it gets.
Well, and I think that also like the body language and tone when you're doing that as
Yeah.
well. Like if you are, open, like no, what did you say earlier? No crossing your arms, no crossing
No
your leg.
crossing legs, no protecting your privates.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because it's close. So we protect our privates for a reason. In close body language, we protect our vitals. Right? You cross your arms. So this is my aspect in the relationship. Uh Logically, here's why this body language exists, right? So when we cross our legs and arms, we're protecting our vitals. We're protecting the things that are important to us. We're protecting our vital organs, the things that keep us alive, and we're protecting our genitalia, right? It's how we mate. It's how we, create life. So that's what this means. It means that I'm closing myself off to you. I'm protecting myself. I don't want to hear what you have to say. So when you do have those hard conversations, it's very important because even though you're using words that say one thing, your body language and your tone is saying something totally different. And whoever you're talking to, whether it's your spouse or a friend or your boss or a client,
Yeah.
they're going to interpret it way differently than you intend. A lot of people, this is natural for them to sit like this, but you are naturally telling people you are not interested in what they have to say. So it's important to uncross your legs and to, if you feel like you can keep one up and open one up here, you know, like I use a lot of open body language with her, even casual conversations, because for a long time, this was me when we talk. Because that's actually how I'm comfortable. Is sitting like this because for years, in my
I'm
previous relationship.
comfortable like this.
Yeah, but for years in our previous relationships, this is how we interacted with people. And so it's important that when she's pissed, she crosses her arms. Like the whole leg thing, she doesn't do that when she's mad. But when you're upset, you do. You cross your arms.
Yeah.
But this, I know that for me, that this is my natural state because for a long time, I didn't want to have conversations with people. I wanted to
Yeah.
protect myself. So
Yeah.
this became my natural body language. So just to recognize that if you're that kind of person and just go, okay, I need to be intentional with how I present myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Showing that, okay, even though I am upset, I'm going to look like I'm
Yeah.
calm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, say that, like
Yeah.
your tone.
Yeah.
Instead of coming at you with this, I guess malicious type of tone, um, do it in a calming way.
Avoid a sarcastic tone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in different moments, because I know I've tried to, like, you know throw some humor into different conversations, and maybe that's not the way I should do it because it comes across sarcastically,
Right.
or and I know that that's happened because you've gotten offended about it or upset about it, and
Unnecessarily upset. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, but
Yeah.
still, like, I shouldn't have done it that way.
Right.
And having just being aware of your tone when you're talking to people,
Yeah.
your spouse. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sometimes she'll talk to me and I'll be off somewhere else in my brain. I'm very spacey sometimes. I can get lost in my own thoughts very easily. And she'll pull me out of them and try to have a conversation with me, but I'll still be like somewhat engaged. And I have to be careful because if I'm thinking about like something negative, that will come out of my conversation. She'll be like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do I mean by that? Well, the way you said it, I'm like, I didn't say it any particular way. When really I did, and I didn't even realize it. So it just takes a lot of conscious effort, and I know that some of this sounds like a lot of work, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
become second nature.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, and I also think that, like, choosing the right time and place for conversations.
Yeah, not having hard conversations at Walmart
Yeah, or at wedding.
or at weddings or church
Yeah, church.
or you know when you're trying to be intimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that, and it never ends well. So, so we have two places we have hard conversations. You should have these places already established, so that you can say we need to remove ourselves and go to this spot. And it's not even like bad hard conversations.
Yeah, it could be the good ones.
Could be the good ones. We've had some great hard conversations in the car. That's one of our bedroom and car.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is where we do it.
Car's my
where
favorite.
We have conversations.
Car's my favorite.
Yeah, car's the best. We get on the freeway or the back roads, and the bad hard conversations and the good hard conversations just flow real natural.
Yeah.
Distractions. I drive.
It's because he can't escape.
Yeah, it's just no one's jumping out the car at 60. Road rash ain't worth it. Yeah, but you have your distractions, you have your music, you have something to look at. The car's really good for us. If the car's not your spot, you gotta have a couple spots that you can safely retreat to that's safe for you and your spouse.
Well, and also, kids, when there's kids involved.
Yeah.
Like removing yourself from the kids while you have these hard conversations, but also, sometimes they can get heated and you don't want to explode in front of the kids.
Yeah. So we made a conscious effort over the entirety of our relationship to not have any kind of even like heated arguments. We would have disagreements in front of the kids, but like our heated arguments are like if we're gonna have a knockdown drag out, I mean we've never hit each other, but if we were gonna have a bloody fight, it was not gonna be around the kids. It was gonna be in the bedroom. It was gonna be like, hey, we need to go. Like, can you go to the room with me? Like, it was very apparent when we needed to have it. Can you go to the room with me? Can you step in my office while we have this conversation?
Right.
But we did have some disagreements in front of our kids. It's good for kids to see disagreement.
Yeah, it is. It is, but you also want to follow it up with, the resolve of that.
Yeah.
Because if your kids aren't seeing that resolve, how is that going to affect their future relationships?
Yeah.
When all they see is the argument, the disagreement, if you guys can't come, or if, even with us, like if we can't come to this agreement or the resolve in the argument disagreement, then they're not going to see that,
Yeah.
and that's all they're going to do.
Yeah.
And
They'll know how to have the disagreement,
right,
but they won't know how to move beyond it.
Yeah.
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 So the Bible says, raise a child up in the way they should go, and they won't wander far from it. I know that when we reference that scripture a lot as Christians, it's like, make sure your kids are praying and they're reading the Word and they're going to Sunday school and they're. But how about like we really just expand on that and we look at show them how to have a happy marriage, despite some of the crap that because of me once again that we've been through. My kids have seen the result. Like both my kids know about the crap that we've been through, and they see us now. And so if they ever have big struggles, they're gonna know, that it's possible. They're not gonna give up, at the first sign of tension or an issue coming up. So
well, and I think it's also really important. This is something that like I tried to make a conscious effort about is, even after, after the disagreement, and then we resolve it, is the laughter piece.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because
joy.
that was kind of like, the beginning of our relationship is that you made me laugh.
So happiness is a temporary state.
Yes. But having that joy,
Having
putting
the joy.
the joy back into that. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. I think the joy has really been an anchor for us in the hard patches that we've had. It's happiness is a temporary state. It comes and it goes. But the joy of the Lord is everlasting. And it pervades every aspect of our life. It is a firm foundation that we stand on, and so having that underlying joy is super, super important for us. But with that productive silence, right? So we're resolving conflict with the productive silence. There's the pause and respond, right?
Yeah.
So Karen will be like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I will chew on that for a minute. And I'll be like, "I am pooping my pants right now. Would you like to help me clean it up?" But seriously, pause and respond. Yeah, don't, because that's. I mean, we did not pause and respond in the beginning.
No.
And I think that's going all the way back to that productive silence that we talked about initially. Pause and respond.
Well, I mean, you don't want to say something that you're going to regret, because I mean, I know I have just word vomited and regretted it later. I remember one situation, and it was early in our relationship, where I had said something about you not having a job, and I know that it hurt you really bad, and that's like that the toothpaste analogy, right?
I was just gonna go into the toothpaste analogy. Yeah, and I'm a worker. Like the majority of our relationship, I've had a job. I've worked multiple jobs. Right now, I currently work multiple jobs, and I do remember that, and I do remember the sting, and we're gonna talk about. We're going to be wrapping up here shortly, but we'll talk about words that cut deep. But it's like toothpaste. Yeah, it's if you step on that tube of toothpaste and you push all the toothpaste out, you're gonna have a hell of a time.
Suck it back in.
Yeah, you're not getting it back in the tube. You might get a little bit back in, but the damage is done. And when you do that, you can sit here and you can say, "Listen, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I didn't." But the damage is done. You've already cut deep.
Yeah, it chips away at that trust.
Yeah, it does, and we're both guilty of that. So
yeah,
I've said things as well.
Well, and that's why going back to that pause and respond, it's so important to just stop a minute, especially when you're frustrated with your significant other. Like, and trust me, it happens. You get frustrated.
I frustrate her.
But it's okay to pause for a minute and think about, how am I going to respond to this? And going back to that productive silence, if it takes you a minute to walk away, do it. Because when you get married, your spouse is, besides God, the next important thing in your life. And
especially when you get like super invested. So let's talk about couples that make it past that. So 50% of marriages fail within the first 12 months, and then an additional 50% fail within the next 72 months, 5 years, right? So we talked about some stats. 65%, we looked at a survey, 65% of the respondents said their marriage failed due to lack of communication. It was like the number one contributing reason to their divorce.
Yeah.
So um so when we look at that and we think about the pause and respond and the words that cut deep, and if you can make it past 12 months, you are an amazing statistic. And now if you can get past that 5 years, if you get past that 5 years, the chance of your marriage surviving major issues goes up exponentially. And then if you can make it if you can make it to 10 years, there's a huge chance that you'll make it all the way to the gates of heaven with each other. So it's important to stop, pause, think about, chew on it. I mean, not just in marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it everywhere. I mean, I'd be like at work and someone will ask me a question. They'll be standing in the door. My boss will like ask me a question, and I'll just like look at them, and they'll be like, "Are you here? Are you somewhere else? Are you retarded? What are you doing?" And then I'll respond, and because I don't want to say something I'm going to regret to her or to anybody else.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't want to be wrong. I really don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was something we struggled with in the beginning because both of us did not want to be wrong.
Well, but we wouldn't pause and respond. We would just.
Yeah. Because we wanted to be right, and we wanted to prove to each other that we were right.
Right. But now we still do that, but it's not nearly. There's a lot more fun behind it these days. But yeah, the pause and respond is super big. And then seeking reconciliation over being right.
Yeah,
so
that's what we're
I don't need to be right.
Right.
I mean, I really like to be right, but I don't need to be right. You don't need to be right. And even if I am right, it's more important that we're good.
Right.
Than me being right. It's more important that we're good. Now, professionally, I'm totally different. I'm ruthless when it comes to my career. I'm going to be right if I'm right, and you're going to know I'm right. But in my marriage, and that's how I was when we first got together, I'm right, and you're going to know I'm right. And if you don't acknowledge the fact that I'm right, I'm going to make sure that you understand how upset I am.
Well, and I remember multiple times, like, we would sit there and, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. I'm right. And then we'd like look things up if it, was a specific thing. And sometimes we still do that, but it's not to get at each other.
Yeah.
It's just to be like, well, here's the information.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want you to be ignorant.
Right.
Either. Like, I don't want you to I don't want you taking your bad self into a conversation and them and someone else going when I have the opportunity to lovingly correct you and say, listen, actually, this is what it is. And now when I like, if she corrects me on something, because she's been in the field that we're in longer than me, and so I actually defer to her on quite a few things, and she'll correct me on something, and then now when I have a conversation with someone else in the field, I'm not going to be spewing BS that I think is right. And then these people aren't going to say anything to me because they don't want to upset me or offend me. They're just going to let me be stupid.
Well, I think that's what it is now, is that we lovingly correct each other rather than, oh, I'm right.
So let's wrap this up. We're going to talk about just a couple things that you guys can do and some things that we're going to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to let you guys hold us accountable. We pray every day, almost every day together, even if it's not very long. That's our kind of our one thing that we want to make sure we do. Sometimes the mornings get super hectic. We get out the door and we pray in the car before I go into the office.
Yeah.
And then some mornings we spend, well over 10 minutes with each other. In prayer.
And then the daily check-ins. Whether that's, we send a text message to each other.
Yep.
I mean, even in the busyness of the mornings, we still check in with each other, even if it's not verbally. My favorite thing is, you touching me, like just touching my back as we pass each other. Like that is super important to me. And
by back she means
stop
little bottom action. No, the small of her back. Yeah, I do like caress the small of her back. Brushing my teeth, sometimes I'll just rub her leg. And that's important for me. Her love languages, one of them is physical touch. And that's because that's where she feels intimate, is physical touch. Let's pause for all the guys out there that think intimacy is about having sex. It's not. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, your wife feels intimate in so many other ways. For us, for men, intimacy is sexual. But for women, there's so many. They're like a diamond, many faucets to the jewel, right? Um, and intimacy is one of those multifaceted things with women. So
Communication is intimacy.
communication is intimacy to women. Yep. So I make it a point to physically engage with her in sweet little ways. So if your wife is, if that's one of her love languages, physical touch is one of her love languages. She's not talking about grabbing her boobs. Okay, that's not
Yeah.
the physical touch we're talking about. We're talking about being intentional and letting her know that you're there.
Yeah.
But so one of our things is spending time in the word together. We're not really that
Yeah.
great at it.
Yeah.
We do our little devotionals, but like intentional time in the word. So this week we are going to spend more time in the word.
Yeah.
We're going to, if we don't get our good prayer time in the morning, we're going to do it in the evening. And we're going to spend more time in a date night, but not necessarily going out to the movies or anything like that.
Maybe a walk.
Maybe a walk.
Something.
Maybe taking the dogs out
Yep.
to the dam and letting them swim away forever. And
I think maybe encouraging everyone to also speak blessings and encouragement to your spouse.
yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking encouragement is important. I'm proud of you goes a long way.
Yeah. And hey there, sexy.
Hey there, sexy.
I'm checking you out.
I'm checking you out. That's one of our. It's from a movie, anyway. Yeah.
And also eliminating distractions.
Yeah.
That's something that we need to, we need to work on, and it's been a struggle over the last couple of years because we've,
We're empty
been
nesters
empty
now.
nesting, yeah. But I think eliminating those distractions for us and for everyone else as well.
Yeah, and that's not to say that you can't spend any time on your phone or your tablet or whatever your poison is, but like saying I'm going to intentionally put this away for 2 hours, and we're just going to, even if it's in the silence, we're just going to be with each other.
Or even just 20 minutes.
Yeah, even just 20 minutes.
It's not like we're going to sit here and stare at each other for 20 minutes.
This is very productive. Okay, guys, so we're gonna wrap this up. We're a little bit over our time limit. I really want to keep these at 30 minutes so that you guys stay engaged with us. I'm not gonna ask you to share this. If you did find some value in it and that's what you feel like doing, so be it. But what I will ask you to do is please comment below. If you gain some insight, or if you have some insight for us, because we've only been together for 16 years, and I know there's people who've been out there, out there a lot longer than us, and you have wisdom that we want to partake from. So if you found value, if you got some insights, if you have something to share with us, if there's a subject that you would like us to touch on, so I promised you that when we wrap this up, I would kind of tell you a little bit about my struggles for the men who may be watching. I've been through the ringer. I was molested by men in my life that I should have been able to confide in and trust in, but they took advantage of me in my family and in the church, and lots of bullying when I was younger. So I started looking at pornography at a really young age, and that bled into my marriage. Um, I'm a third generation stepdad, and that comes with its own struggles. I was raised by a stepdad who was raised by a stepdad. There's a lot that we're going to share over the next 12 weeks, and Karen will share her own stuff as well. I'm not going to speak to that, but I will share with guys about my depression, my anxiety, my stress, my need to achieve.
And I mean, I'll share my, again, anxiety, depression, stress, as well as my hurts and childhood traumas, even relationship traumas, abuse. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Addiction.
Yeah. We'll talk a lot about our addiction.
Yeah.
That's what kind of brought us together, was addiction. Yeah. We're still active in recovery. It's a big part of our life. So anyway, we love you guys. We want to be praying for you. If you need prayer, comment below. Yeah. Please be praying for us. The whole purpose of this is just to glorify God, and through what he's done in our relationship. So until next time, this is the Harmony Project. See ya.
Bye.